Hey everyone, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and this is a very special night. We are kicking off our first installment of the Green World. This is a 12 by 12 round canvas landscape painting, but it's just different than anything I've done on my channel or in the patronage before. I don't often talk about this, but I spent much of my life as a working professional artist. Um, Exhibited, I've shown, I've won awards, I've worked in house in studios designing, um, been in the paper and card market, had art agents. Um, so my art path and the way I see the world and the way I paint was pretty well established when I came onto YouTube. And when I started this on YouTube, I really wanted to make sure that beginners had a friendly, um, welcoming place to be. And I didn't want to hit the channel with a lot of intimidating pieces or pieces that would, uh, you know, come across like they were, hey, baby, I don't see the thing going at all.
Yeah,
Is
no,
it
we're
going
out
for
here.
you?
Yeah. And Tina says hi.
It won't play for me.
Hmm.
I had the links and everything.
Yeah, no, Tina's out there and
All
Colleen's
right.
out there.
I see Tina Louise. Hi, Tina Louise.
Yeah.
So, um, when I initially set out on this journey, that was my focus. And then at this point, with more than 1,000 lessons, which is really quite a few, we've gotten into more complicated projects and more complicated projects. And I introduced this idea of hoots to sort of keep the idea of progressing through skill levels from being intimidating, because I think beginners always benefit from sitting in on a class, even if it's above their current skill level. And I felt like the hoots would keep people from turning away and regulating themselves, putting their own limiters on. Green world, we're just stepping away from all of that. What I'm saying to you is if you had come to me in a class before and we were doing a project and I was teaching you about landscape painting and we were throwing down, I consider this piece to be a very resolved piece. I would hang and exhibit this piece. I would sell this piece. I'm proud of this piece. And in this journey, I'm really going to go deep into how I created it, the tools, the materials, the thought process. We're even going to start talking a little bit about what we think about as artists. I see Moderator Cad Red, Sharon O'Brien, Tina Sue. Oh, I'm so excited to see everybody. So I know we're a smaller little family here right now. However, I think this is an extraordinary opportunity. Do ask questions. Do really get involved. You can bring these to the Zoom if you have middle of the project questions to the Zoom meeting later in the month. Remember to check your email on how to get your painting submitted. But also you can share pieces that you're currently working. How you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing pretty good.
He's doing pretty good. So I think we're ready to jump on in to the beginning. This is going to be about 30 minutes, so it should be pretty digestible. Part one. Part one. Ooh. I love it. So here we are. You'll see that I kind of, I don't know, doodled on my canvas because sometimes I think about things ahead of time, kind of sensibly where I want to go and then paint over it. I'm putting out a Cerulean blue hue Holbein Gesso. Holbein Gesso is just the awesome sauce. It's just creamy and pigmented, and you can pick the grit you want, and I really love it. If you're on a budget right now and you're really wanting to do this particular piece, go ahead and just use Cerulean blue paint. I am using one of the Raphael brushes. I think it's the Textura, which is just a 1-inch brush to put out the gesso. I picked this particular one because I wanted somewhat of a smooth application. And surprisingly, I thought that the watercolor was going to create like some difficulty for the gesso, but it just hasn't done so at all. So Sarah and Tina Louise, there's two Tinas. There's like all the Tinas are in here tonight. And we have some people, sitting there very quietly. But, the thing is here is that this first layer, why do I do a ground? What's the thinking behind a ground? When I do a ground, I know that I'm going to be doing and proceeding into a piece that is going to be a layered piece. It's not, I'm building up a concept And because I'm working on a harmony here, harmonies being that these colors are next to each other on the color wheel, I don't want my underpainting for this to be a contrasting color. I'm not trying to create that kind of drama. I'm not painting loosely. And I want to continue the harmony of the background. So it's really important to me to pick something. I'm not that worried that some of the black is picking up because I'm going to be toning and tinting the blue a little bit when I do the sky. And honestly, in a painting, conceptually, I can just tell you from a lot of experience that it's the determined nature to keep going that really kind of has more to do with an outcome of a painting than anything else. Like the hanging in and just saying, you know, hey, Twix, I see you. Where are you going? What is your plan here? She's sitting back. She thought she was getting away with something. Oh, it's Tina LeBach. And so I see we're going. So hopefully you guys are seeing things playing behind me. I know my particular iPad is acting up a bit, so hopefully yours is not.
It looks like everything's going okay here on the stream side.
So, I you know what? It's operator error for me. I'm not even caught up to my own self. Literally, I'm doing operator error. Hopefully the chat will hang in with.
Oh yeah, everyone's hanging in here.
So the actual chat that I have going.
Oh.
That will hang in with me because I can't see where I'm at, and if I can't see where I'm at, okay, there we go. Oh, I guess I can see where I'm at here. So now I'm putting out my paint. I put out some of my. I had technical difficulties. Let me back up and see what I did. So I see that I'm putting out phthalo blue, and I'm going to put out ultramarine, and I'm putting out burnt sienna, and I've got some titanium white. I'm going to dry the surface. So ultramarine and phthalo blue, and burnt sienna.
If I recall, this is where you're going to pull out your other brushes as well.
Yeah, I'm going to start getting my other brushes involved and getting kind of busy. The idea behind this guy is, and when I use the reference, it's this sort of airy, distant cloud. They're not quite cumulus. It's where the sky begins to make formative, emotive shapes. And it's a lot of fun to do if you are confident in your cloud techniques. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And the reason I say overwhelming is sometimes like S curves and things like that kind of can get into people. Now, I am literally loosely sketching in my riverbank over here. It's not going to be a detailed sketch. I just need to know where my objects are. I need to have a sense of how far I'm going to take down the sky so that when I put my trees up into my distant horizon, the sky and the trees are well integrated, and you get that little peak of blue between the leaves that even in the distance make them feel a little more real and authentic. You can see me curving in the banks. I'm sort of saying landscape, landscape, landscape. This is literally in my head. This is what I think. Landscape, landscape. And I'm trying to make sure that I put my land in the background down far enough. It's almost like I'm sketching in the land beneath the trees that we're never going to see, like in any way, on any level. So, oh, here we go. I'm catching up to the chat. And Tina Louise says she's Tina Perry and she loves this piece. Is so excited to do it. And I see Ms. Linda Sue. So I'm very excited to have everybody here. My suggestion with this, when you're going into it, is right there. You can see, and I'm hoping that you can tell like what colors I'm mixing into when you see them up onto the canvas. So like that you can see like the hint of the red that's the ultramarine versus the turquoise cast that is the blue. And I'm going to begin in kind of an ultramarine space. And the reason is that it makes a very soft, distant sky. I know I'm going to get a little bit into the cerulean. I know that I'm going to get a little bit into the burnt sienna to tone it so it's not so saturated. Because the natural sky often is desaturated. Now, I think I'm getting into my Princeton 1-inch oval mop. I have decided that, no, this bright isn't going to do it, and I need to work some more paint faster. And I'm going to get a lot in fast, and then I'm going to come back and refine it using this brushing method that I'm doing. And I don't know if you guys catch this when I'm working, which is this interweaving method where I rush back into space that I've previously been into, And I'm also trying to avoid in a space like this making like vertical strokes or really strong alternate strokes. I picked up a little too much ultramarine into my blue, but I realized it was not in any way going to deter or change the piece. So I was like, it's fine. I
Just
blend it.
yeah.
And I do that a lot, actually. I'll be working and something weird will happen or a technique will present differently than I expected. But I recognize that the hanging in, the sort of being relaxed about it and proceeding forward makes a big difference. I'm lightening this horizon line. This is important both for the contrast and important for the effect of these distant clouds. So, and you can see I'm pulling it deep. I've decided that I might have little peaks of blue sky deep into the landscape. So I've almost pulled that sky down to that halfway mark. I come back over with a dry brush and I'm going to brush it. You're going to get your best blend, honestly, with the dry, soft brush and then the painted brush. It's just really nice to have several dry brushes to the side if you can for blending. And then you just sort of rinse them out and dry them. I have literally dried brushes with the hair dryer before to get them back to dry because the most refined blending is that wet, dry overbrush. I'm bringing my blue back in here, and you can see I got a little of my cerulean back into it. I'm still working my ultramarine, and that's just totally going for me right now. And now that sky is sort of, if you'll notice, very soft and atmospheric. Sometimes in acrylic, not the easiest effect to get, right? And I'm like, on the horizon, I definitely want the top of the sky, in this particular case, to be a deeper blue, both to offset the clouds and also to give that sense of a middle day lighting situation where it's a clear sky and we're looking at a middle day light. Oh my goodness, I see BJ Gardner. Hello from Redding, California. Well, you have days like this like all the time in Redding, California. This should feel very familiar and calming, I would think. I'm so excited about this, pulling this in. And you can see I'm just layering. It's okay to keep pulling pigment in and just allowing. Here's the thing, an artist thought I want you guys to keep in mind as you're doing this. You can see I'm softly blending, working it in. The thought that I'm going to keep is that I'm listening to the artist brain inside of me. You have one, I have one, everybody has one. And it's constantly chattering at us, but its voice is small. This is a number 12 round Princeton blender. They have them at Michael's. They have them online. They're not particularly pricey brush, and you can get them on some pretty great sales. If you can, I highly recommend having a couple just sitting around your paint box. Kind of like if you can get one of the ultimate varnish brushes that I love so much by Silver. Kind of great to, get those. But if you can't, get that Princeton oval mop there because that'll work too. Notice that there's a lyrical quality, like musical movements where I'm S-stroking, I'm coming back. I am really trying to, and here's the thought process that we're in. We're seeing the wind currents move the clouds in unexpected ways, as if there are different pushes or temperature of wind current coming through there, and it's creating these artistic cloudscapes. We can push this probably more than nature will, though often nature surprises me, so I wouldn't want to definitely say that. BJ says, holy zen watching me today. And I hear that they're trying to figure out plan B. I don't know what plan B is, but go for plan B. Katie Lyons. Katie, how are you doing this evening? I am so glad to see you.
I have to admit, I zenned out watching you too.
Did you?
I was just sort of.
It's a calming piece. And when you're doing this, right, because I know many of you, and I do recommend this, you watch the class, right, with me, take it in, chat with everybody, sort of bring all this in, see it, and then go back and go through the segments where you need that anchoring help. Like if you're like, I need to see how that blend was done again, you can see I put the paint out, just titanium white. I'm just putting the paint out, right? And then back in I go, just creating brighter, more opaque layers of white because some of the clouds, they're denser. They are more reflective. They're more clearly white, where some of it is wispy and distant and, irregular in the far off space. And I know that as long as I'm working wet into wet and I have my blending brushes, there isn't anything I'm going to put in there that I can't adjust, tweak, or change as I need to. Tina Sue, I like when you paint smoke right. I like when you paint smoke right. Yeah, exactly like when you paint smoke right. And then Sharon loves the little Princeton brush. It is a really good brush. I do recommend it. I don't even have a thing with Princeton, like at all. I don't think they've even ever emailed me. I just think it's an okay brush. There are okay brushes out there. Like I have brushes that we make, and they're wonderful, but there are other wonderful brushes. So I never want people to feel like they can't find another tool. Like, what if you didn't have any of your tools and you didn't have access to the tools that I have? You'd want to know that there are other tools at the art store that you could get. And there are. I think that's a very important thing. All right. So Sharon says it's very zen. And you can see me working up here. I'm going back in, just building up levels of value. Clouds are value and hue, light diffused. And you're always playing a hard edge to a soft edge. When you're really good at working your skies, that's the dance that you're in each moment is, where's my hard edge? Kind of like watercolors. Where's my hard edge and where's my soft edge? Because clouds will kind of disperse and diffuse out. I bet John has an atmospheric reason that they do this. And then they'll have cumulative hard edges where it feels like they're really contrasted against the sky that they're against. So, do you have a atmospheric thing you want to share, John?
Well, there's a billion different things that they could do. I mean, like, so from distance, like just breaking up from the like fog in the sky to the way the clouds break up in the atmosphere. So
Pulling out some more white. You can see I'm just getting into it. It's like, no, I need. So now I'm playing zinc white against titanium white. And whenever you're playing zinc white against titanium white, what you're playing is a subtle transition to a strong transition. All right, sorry, Don.
No.
I just want to explain the two whites.
I was,
and you can see where it's getting dry there. And, oh no, that's not two whites. That's my glazing medium. I didn't see myself put it out. It's my glazing medium. So where that brush was getting dry and I saw that my paint was getting dry, I started getting my glazing medium involved so that as my background surface started to dry, I would still have the ability to do this wispy little diffusing nonsense that I like to do. And notice how there's a lot of gesture to everything. And the gesture is balanced across each other. Sometimes you have to correct for nature because nature can do some strange things. Sharon, so I have seen how I'm progressing. I used to watch 2 or 3 times before I could attempt to paint it. Then I would watch and pause or replay parts. Lately, I can watch 1 time and paint with minimal replay. And that's a thing that'll happen. Eventually, and this is really fun. I don't know if you're aware of all the videos out there that are labeled tutorial on YouTube, which are really just a speed paint with piano music and in no way teach you the techniques. There's this weird point where that's a tutorial for you. And you're like, oh, thank you for showing me all your techniques.
Yep.
And you'll be able to paint it, even though they're not actually tutorials. And then you'll get to a place where you'll be standing in front of a painting and you'll start to break it down in your brain the same way you're probably breaking down clouds right now when you're sitting in your car. Just part of the process. So you can see here that as the clouds are progressing up the sky, they have lots of little curved tails. Those tails, become one shade, one value, one bit lighter than what's behind them. And then I can come in and strengthen that contrast. So everything in painting is hue and contrast, right? And value, which is how light or dark it is. If you can nail the value in, you can pretty much get away with almost everything else. Which is why sometimes people that work on their tonality first end up seeming like stronger painters than they actually are in maybe their totality of skills because they nail the value. And if you can nail the value, you can almost get away with anything. So I highly recommend anytime you get a chance to practice value, you can see me coming back and be like, oh, that needs some more white. Look at me curve that in. I'm like, you blow around here. Blow this way. Blow that way. Sharon's laughing.
How wet was your brush?
So my brush, I keep these damp They're a natural hair, so I have to be really careful with them. Anytime you're working a natural hairbrush, your two challenges are shedding, because the way they have to do natural hairs means that every once in a while hair can come free and shed. It'll be more common than your tack-ons. And the other thing is that it'll start to hold water. Have you ever noticed how your hair gets when it's wet and it starts to get like into the hair shaft? And then the hair shaft becomes much softer and more malleable. And right here, I am using a bright. This is a Raphael bright, and I'm using it to give myself some hard edges and to help myself see where I want some more defined cloudscape to come up. I'm working that there, and you can see where I'm like, oh, here, and I'm almost dashing it out. I'm dashing it out where I'm just gesturally sketching it in. I'll be back to this brush we were discussing about it being too damp. But again, with natural hair, so I have towels to the side of me, and let's see, what's a visualization can give you? When you don't have a hair dryer and you really have to dry your hair, that towel dry you do so that it'll be naturally dry in like 10 minutes, that dry. Like there's no drips. It's damp.
Oh, right,
you can
yeah.
feel the dampness, but if you went out in an Arizona day, it'd be dry in a couple minutes. So just lightly damp. And you'll know right away if you have too much water in it because the paint just and some paints more than others. Like I love Senlier, one of my favorite paints, but it's much more water sensitive. So if too much water loaded, I'm gonna know it right away. It's gonna really start to water down fast. Not lose pigment, but it waters down very quick. And that's about the polymer. So again, just thinking about the way and space, especially up here at the top. I know I want this round canvas. And I did find a resource, guys. I found an amazing resource to frame these. If you wanted a frame, and I found an amazing resource where you can get the domed glass that will fit that frame like vintage art. So I'll make sure I share that in group.
Okay.
Hmm?
I said, okay.
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 John heard me like when I found it. I was like, because I didn't want to do this unless I could find a round frame. Because if you loved it and it was your favorite painting you ever did, you need to be able to frame it. And I wanted to make sure that you had that in there. Linda Sue says, I still have to do that with acrylic. I'm definitely a rookie with acrylic. I'm much more confident with watercolor. So in painting and observing students, because each media has its own positives and negatives, and honestly, I think they're all kind of a one-to-one in the artist experience because it's just about getting over that initial skill set challenge. What I think works with students is that they'll have a success with a medium, especially early on, something that gives them that internal feedback that says, oh, you got this. And then they start to feel confident. And then that confidence really starts to almost be like a slide of success. Oh, there, I've turned it. So you can see I've gone back in where I felt like I got too light, I put back a little blue. You can do that. You can come back in and put back a little blue. And I'm not getting into my phthalo that much. And really that's about not wanting to pull the turquoise until it's necessary into that sky. And I was really surprised at how much I like the cerulean in this particular piece. So you'll go back and you'll be like, no, you need to be a little more blue than you were. The slide of success. Take that slide of success. When you feel that confidence and you think you're doing really well, that's going to start to give you a slide of success. It even happens to me still. Sometimes, like, I just really, when I came into YouTube, I would have thought I was absolutely unable to paint vehicles in any way. And now I reluctantly paint them fairly competently. Because I've started to have that slide of success, and then I feel more confidence. Then I see a project and I'm kind of more likely to take it on. And instead of being put away by it, want to lean into it. So back to the blending with that Princeton. That particular curve I did there, I know I'm going to come back and refine. And the reason is that it felt inelegant there. And so you'll see me continue to play with it and soften it. Because it's very important that you take in the whole piece. That's got to take in the whole piece. But sometimes if you see something and it irks you, you're going to want to change it. Just hear yourself, but don't stumble or mess yourself up by second guessing yourself. And that's kind of a balance, isn't it, when you're new at painting? I think, is having the ability to hear yourself interior on your interior, and then, um, but also not second guessing everything you do
Mm.
and, feeding into those fears. So again, working at those curves and thinking about what you see me doing here is negative space work. When you have a cloud, that's your subject. Interestingly enough, the cloud is a subject. It's not just the sky. So there's many subjects within a painting in each layer. And so in this particular layer, the clouds are the subject and the background sky or atmosphere is the negative space. And so I'm being very attentive here to the spaces between the movements of the clouds. They are as important as the objects themselves. And sometimes when you can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak, try to see the spaces between the leaves. And in this case, if you can't see the sky for the clouds, try to see the spaces between the clouds. Sometimes will get you out of a mental cul-de-sac. All right. Da-da-da-da. Donna Cox says, hello, lovelies. And Sharon O'Brien says, I'm a bit more hesitant with watercolor because I'm not at a point where I can correct mistakes as easily. Acrylics are more forgiving. It's the slide of confidence, right?
Yeah.
Watercolor mistakes, they can be a little more challenging in some areas to correct, but since the paint is never really set and there's now mediums called lift aid, you can really back a lot of stuff out of your watercolor these days. There used to be a way to do it if you were just familiar with pigments and staining and paper, you could really almost erase anything, but now you just use a medium and there you go. DJ Gardner says sky holes, and I like Linda's kitty box. So up there again, now we're doing hard edges, aren't we? Now we're doing those bits of clouds that are super defined, that you see them up in the sky and they're like, oh, I'm a thing. I'm a thing. And you have to like me. I'm a thing. And I'm thinking about that. Now I suspect I'm going to come in and soften it. I'm almost totally sure. So again, this is those Princeton brushes, that good Raphael Bright. Those are very good. Raphael brushes are very good brushes. And they make some great acrylic ones. There's a whole bunch. There's so many to select from. But, and again, Princeton too. I'm just going to come in and keep softening one side, painting that negative space. But I'm leaving, look at that interesting little edge that happened. It's very important. He's very excited. And hopefully the worst thing that ever happens is when I rewatch a video and I see a moment in the painting, a little element, a little bit of poetry that I paint away. And I'm doing another rewatch, reading comments or something, and I'm like, what was I doing? And I'm pretty sure I leave that there. There we go. We're just doing wonderful. So again, working that negative space. And I think that that's a thing that happens as students. They get the cloud, and it's almost like they paint the cloud into the space, right? They're like, this is a cloud, right? Instead of the cloud being an integrated part of this very deep three-dimensional world that is the atmosphere, right? So it sometimes what we think about or the way we think about an object is as important as how we paint that object. Yes, it's important the way I'm delicately touching the canvas. It's important the way that I'm building up layers slowly, or I'm curving the strokes and I'm paying attention to the gesture, but also just the way I imagine what the clouds are doing and how they got there. I sometimes will think in a piece about what the day feels like and try to get into a space where I don't want to say it's like method acting, but where you really try to be in the place that your painting is. So you just sort of mentally, with your mind's eye, put yourself on the bank as the viewer of that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And what moment in that day would really hold your attention or catch your breath? That's what's worth painting. You can paint anything, and anything is better by being painted, right? Like keys are better once they're painted. But when you're painting landscapes, you want to think about that moment that catches your breath. That moment that makes you feel like this is what being alive is about. That's the landscape that you're trying to capture. That's what the, Hudson River painters, were trying to do. That's what all the naturalistic natural parks painters were trying to do, is capture that. I can't believe this just happened. This is the best thing I've ever seen nature do. That kind of incredible space. So in this cloudscape, I'm literally thinking about what sky would hold me that way? What would that breeze feel like? What would that day feel like? Would it be humid? Would it be crisp? Uh, how would I see dust motes in the air? I mean, I really get into it. Oh, someone is like, don't forget to thumb up if you get a chance. It is very nice to get thumbs up. It is, because then I know somebody watched them. Oh, Katie's off to do the dinner things. Oh, have a good dinner and big hugs, Katie. Just appreciate everything about you. And I can't wait to see everybody's version of this. Now I know actually it's because everything else is sold out, it's kind of easy to get round canvases. And the Lazy Susans are, most of them are 12 inches in diameter. I gotta say, this Lazy Susan round canvas thing is the sauce of awesome. I really love it. Now that I've solved the framing hanging problem, I'm so into this. I have to warn you, if you got the pack, you're going to be using up the pack of canvases. So I did, in your project page, give you a square and a horizontal and a vertical, so you could crop the piece if you didn't have this round canvas. The other thing that you can do is take, if you took a 12 by 12 square canvas and then just did the full circle, that would be another way. Then it's white on the outside, and then you do the painting on the inside. So if you don't have the square, you can do that as well. There's a lot of ways to get into that where you don't have to be stressed or concerned, about can you reform or reshape this painting. Again, just building up these layers. This is the time that it takes. When you're really working a sky or you're really working a painting, again, there's no speed component to painting. However, effort and time, whether it's in preparation or in execution, certainly pays off. Right? Like, yes, some artists paint very immediate, very quickly, but when you look at the preparation that's behind that fast painting, it's as much time and effort as this was. So this is where we are on the green world. This is what we did. Next week, we're going to come back together and we're going to work the very distant objects. These are the far off trees. This is a bit of the riverbank. It's quite active and running, but is far, far away, still in our background, right? So the sky is our background. And the next segment of trees I would consider background, and then the next two painting segments will be the middle ground, and then finally we'll finish with the grass foreground. And this grass thing has really turned into a journey for me. Mm-hmm. Tina Sue says, sometimes I think I stop too soon on building layers. I think that's a dance, isn't it? It's like you can see a painting when it's been overworked, and you do want to avoid that. But that's generally about working contrasting colors into wet paint and the painting going muddy. With layers, you can always come back and tweak. As long as you prevent an unexpected color situation to come up, coming back in and just playing with it and tweaking with it. And I would say the mental space that I find, and maybe this will help you find it, is I will be going along and my little artist brain will say ding, ding, ding. And that's my stop. It just like literally, it's as if my whole being is tense, not unrelaxed, but it's pulled into this moment. And then when the painting hits where we were trying to go, that all kind of releases. And if I stop there and hang it up and look at it for a day or two, anything that I missed will come to me. And it's about, what I highly recommend is you put it on the wall and you sit in your chair and you just kind of sip your tea or coffee or whatever libation you do and just look at it. Don't be critical of it. Don't have a lot of opinions about it. Just look at it and just try to hear the quiet voice that says, oh yeah, that's perfect. Don't touch it. Or the one that's like, that's a little heavy over on the side. And that's what our Zoom meeting about, and our feedback is going to be about when you bring me paintings, is you can, we can talk about learning to develop this artist brain and how we use it to create art. Sharon, thank you so much. I'm so glad you thought it was cool. And Tina, thank you so much. I'm glad you thought it was cool. And Linda says, if you were concerned about keeping the circle on squarish paper, you could use frisket around the circle to protect the white. You could absolutely use frisket around the circle to protect the white, but you cannot take 5 weeks to get that frisket off. Don't do it to yourself.
Turns to glue.
Yeah, it does. It becomes part of the paper. So I would actually probably do a masking film at that point. So if I had a circle and I needed to hold that circle for not days, not 48 hours, but like weeks, I would get a glassine or a low-tech masking film that airbrush artists use and use that to hold my surface and protect my white paper over Frisket in that particular instance. Trisha Woods, how you doing? This is really fun, and I'm so glad BJ got to be here today, and I'm really glad for everybody got to join me. If you weren't here for the live this Monday, I hope you get to be here for the live next Monday. These will be available for replay in your dashboard, and definitely, check out that email about how to submit if you want to do a submission. You don't have to, by the way, do submission for the critique, but if you do, check out the email on how you can do that. That's fun. You like it, John?
I do. I enjoyed it.
I think this is a good way of doing this. This isn't something I can normally do, and so this has been a really fun way of doing it. Trisha Witch says, I'm going to need to figure out what to do with that around canvas. I would have loved to have done the circle. However, I know I will make it work somehow. Again, you can place a circle in a square and just allow that space to be white. That's a done thing in art. It's a very normal thing. You can use one of the references that's provided where it's a vertical, square, or a rectangle, horizontal, so it's a landscape or a portrait. Because I know sometimes that's a little hard to know, where do I crop the piece? Where do I want to change it? And this is really technique based. So if you're grasping the techniques, you should be able to put it at the end of this. You should be able to add some more trees or grass if you needed to reform or reshape things. I was back in my dashboard, not here on YouTube. Oh, you mean like from the website? Oh, just clicked on YouTube right now. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully, we try to get those in for you. Here's some things. Here's behind the scenes baseball. We're changing the website, and I think the current web providers are super mad about it. So, October, when we hope everything will be working.
Yeah, we're targeting in October.
Yeah.
So
targeting October.
So the truth may be that things continue to slowly break and not get fixed between now and October.
Like I can't put any new links into the website right now.
It's sort of
like
the
calendar. Colleen can get them in the calendar.
So what happened is they welded our hood shut, and we have to get.
So now what you gonna do?
That's right.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna go find somebody else to be with.
So if I have to, I might be pushing this website across October, but
yes.
But in October we have a new one.
Bear with us. You guys are the reason that we are now able to get free of our unhealthy relationship and get into a healthier one with our website.
With new technology.
So I'm very excited about it, but bear with us through the technical challenges. Just write support at TheArtSherpa.com. And if that ever fails, we'll have another email for you to reach out, but you will be able to contact us and reach us. So, and everything's all good. I mean, we're fine. We're pretty resilient.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're pretty resilient. And we got you, and we got each other. And so life is really essentially at its heart very, very good. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel next Monday at 7 p.m. really, really soon. Bye-bye.